I used to forget almost every book I finished, even when I took reading notes. Or worse, I took notes, but never looked at them again. Hi, I'm Laura. These notebooks in front of me, every single one of them was part of my reading notes system. Today, I will walk you through how my reading notes slowly evolved and how I eventually found a system that truly works for me. At the beginning, I used a traveler's notebook for reading notes. The method was very simple. I wrote down the core ideas of each book in reading order, usually 1 or 2 pages per book, mostly highlights and key points. But over time, I noticed something. Many books are actually built around similar ideas. If I could review related ideas together, my understanding would be much deeper. So I changed my approach. Each TN insert became a theme notebook. One for business mindset, one for personal growth, and one for psychology. At first, this felt much more structured. But soon, I ran into another problem. Inside one big theme like business, there are many subtopics: marketing, products, business models. I wanted those subtopics grouped together. I tried writing an index on the first page, but I didn't like flipping back and forth. I also didn't like that related ideas were scattered across different parts of the notebook. What I really wanted was flexibility to insert new ideas, to adjust the order as my thinking changed, and to remove notes that were no longer useful. Traveler's Notebook simply wasn't designed for that. There was also a very personal reason I struggled with it. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. If one page looked messy, I would lose motivation to continue. So while TN is beautiful, its fixed structure made it hard for me to stick with it in long term for serious reading notes. After that, I moved everything online to Evernote. Each topic could have subtopics. Everything looked clean and extendable. But after I using it for a while, I noticed something important. I rarely went back to review my notes. Every time I opened Evernote, notifications and distractions pulled me away almost immediately, and that completely went against my original goal. I take reading notes to revisit them, to reinforce memory, not just to store them somewhere and forget. So I returned to paper again. This time I chose an A5 slim ring binder. This was a major shift for me. With rings, I could finally add pages freely, remove pages freely, keep related topics together, and even print content and punch it into the notebook. With small index tabs, I could jump directly to the section I want to review. For the first time, my reading notes felt clear and manageable. Another practical benefit: A5 Slim is very close in size to the TN inserts. Both of them are the same size, 210 by 110 millimeters. I was able to trim and punch my old TN notes and integrate them into the new system. Instead of starting over, my notes evolved with me. Later on, I started learning the Feynman technique, and my reading note system evolved again. Alongside my A5 slim ring binder, I added a Filofax Finsbury Pocket. Why 2 notebooks? Because the core idea of Feynman technique is simple. If you can't explain something in your own words, you don't really understand it. So I split my workflow. I use the A5 Slim as input for highlights, excerpts, and reading notes. And I use the Pocket as output to write ideas in my own words, to summarize, reflect, and test my understanding. Every time I learned a new concept, I try to compress it onto a single page. If it could be simpler, I rewrote it again. I kept doing this until I could explain the idea in the simplest, most precise language possible. The small pocket size actually helped a lot. It forced me to be concise and made it very clear whether I truly understood something or not. I naturally reach for it instead of my phone to review, reflect, or jot down thoughts. This system worked well for more than a year, but then I decided to update it again. I replaced my Filofax Finsbury Pocket with a slimmer notebook. The reason was simple. For me, the Filofax Pocket was still a bit too bulky. It has a lot of built-in pockets that I didn't really need. And with smaller shoulder bags, it often didn't fit, which meant that about half the time I ended up leaving it at home. And if I can't carry a notebook with me, I won't naturally revisit my notes. I'll just reach for my phone instead. There was also another issue. The one I had was a Filofax Finsbury. It can't lie completely flat. It would close unless I held it down. And that turned out to be more annoying than I expected. If I got interrupted and came back to it, it often loses the exact page I was just on. To be fair, Filofax has many different models. Some of them do lie flat and have a much slimmer profile, especially some of the vintage ones. This was just my experience with the Filofax Finsbury. So I switched to a ring binder that's truly portable, lines completely flat, and feels natural to carry every day. That's how I ended up with this mini-size slim pad, fully transparency. It's something we make at Me Plus, the studio I co-founded. Of course, there is one small trade-off. Because the rings are smaller, there is less space for content. To work around that, I use thinner paper and regularly clean and update what's inside and keep only the ideas I'm actively focusing on. And interestingly, that limited capacity actually helps. It constantly pushes me to focus on what truly matters instead of trying to keep everything. This year, I update my system again. Instead of one thick leather binder, I now use 2 leather binders in the same size as commonplace books, each dedicated to a different domain. Compared with this black purpled leather binder, there are smaller rings, which makes writing more comfortable and the binder more portable. When heading out, you can simply choose a notebook that fits the kind of notes you want to take that day. I even engrave the topic on the spine of each notebook, so it's always clear what it's for. One is for business thinking. Because I'm building a company, I read a lot of books related to entrepreneurship, strategy, and decision making. I collect useful ideas, patterns, and real-world lessons there, so everything stays connected. The other one is for note-taking methods. I've always loved notebooks and the act of taking notes itself. Books about how to take better notes are something I naturally gravitate toward. So I keep all my notes on systems like Getting Things Done, Bullet Journal, and other note-taking frameworks together in one place. Each notebook focuses on a single domain, which keeps ideas coherent and makes them much easier to revisit over time. Alongside those, I carry one mini-sized notebook as my everyday carry. I call this one Book of Answers. Whenever I feel stuck or unsure about a decision, I open it, slow down, connect different ideas, and think things through deeply. So finally, here are a few personal takeaways. First, the best reading note system is the one that makes you want to write and reread. It doesn't need to be expensive or complex. Lower friction always wins. Second, if you want something more structured and flexible, ring binders are better solutions. You are free to adjust as your thinking evolves. Third, portability matters more than we expect. If something is easier to pull out than your phone, you will review it more often. And lastly, a personal preference. I love vegetable tanned leather. It changes with time. And that sense of aging and continuity makes me want to keep using the same notebook. If you are looking for a way to actually remember what you read and build a system you will stick with, I hope this video gave you some clarity and inspiration.